Kama tov shebatem habayta. These beautiful words were graffiti sprayed by the IDF soldiers all around the walls in Gaza, as in hope for these girls to see them as they finally come back home, being held hostage for 471 days. Mind you, they were kidnapped by force by people that came and raped, murdered, burned alive all their friends. This girl that is doing this, crazy video picture with her mom, that she's showing some victory V with her hands. She lost her fingers while defending her dog as they broke into her house and shot her dog and kidnapped her and brutally brought her into Gaza and held her hostage. But just the fact that Hamas actually feels that they have a crowd, because they just released this horrendous propaganda video where they're seeing, giving them this package and giving them this like map, I don't know, giving them all kind of gifts as if they just finished a summer camp in Disney. And going back home, the fact that they believe that there's an audience for these videos, and actually they're right, there is an audience for these videos around college campuses in the US and in Europe, which will see that and will believe, oh, they're the good guys. Forget the fact that they just released girls that were held against their will, that were tortured, that lost body parts, that they kidnapped babies, women and children, Holocaust survivors. All the horrendous things that they're done will be forgotten, because there is people in the world that when they look at this picture of this terrified young girl who was just afraid for her life and all these misogynist jihadist terrorists around, they would look at it and they will see the jihadist terrorists as the good guys and this girl as the bad guys and Israel as the bad guys. That just shows you what a broken world we're living in. Just the fact that we're actually accepting a reality where we're allowing the release of a kidnapped innocent hostages, including babies, in exchange for 50 or even more lifetime sentenced jihadists. And some people in the world that think that this is okay. Let me read you some of the very interesting comments that people have made that I think captured very well the whole situation that is happening right now. No other country in the world would be expected to release 50 multiple life sentence terrorist convicts for a single woman stolen 470 days ago. For Israel, it always was about the hostages. For Hamas, it was about the exchange rate. I think that is a powerful statement that captures very good what's happening. World War II ended with Germany conquered and denazified. It didn't end with Nazis celebrating the streets and vowing to do it again. Anti-Semites are in a real dilemma right now. Do they declare victory against a Zionist entity or continue to claim a non-existent genocide? I think that's a good one. In a summary, Hamas would like you to know that they died in the genocide, but also survived and won the war. I mean, that's how pathetic is the celebrations in Gaza. And that's how pathetic they perceived, by the way, by the Arab world. I mean, not only that they invaded a country, failed, went back and hid behind their own people as human shields, holding babies as, and innocent people as human shields. They've lost so many lives. Tens of thousands of their soldiers have died. All their constructions were been destroyed. Their city is completely obliterated. More prisoners were taken by Israel. More terrorists were taken by Israel prisoners than before that war. And now less were released to them. And they managed to go outside and genuinely celebrate as if it's a victory. And here is what actually bothers, I think, me and many other people in the world that would have probably been happier for the Gazans for the end of the war if we would have seen more Gazans walking in the street and saying, end for this war, get rid of Hamas, let's not do this again, let's live in peace. But instead of that, we're not seeing any of these voices. We're actually seeing people going in Gaza right now, celebrating victory and chanting that they want to do that again. إحنا رجال محمد ديف. We are the people of this arch-terrorist. We're going to do that again. We're seeing people celebrating in Europe, Canada, and America that the ceasefire is not the end. We should continue the genocide attempt against the Jews. That just shows you what a problematic nation. That's why people like to basically kind of say that the situation in Gaza is not that different than the situation in Nazi Germany. It's a very dark, murderous ideology that when Nazi Germany, it was actually defeated. With Hamas, they didn't let Israel to finish the job, and that's what we're dealing right now with the situation we're seeing in the streets. I'm not making this up. You can go and watch these videos. They're all over the internet. Next one. Can I just kidnap two random kids on the streets of New York City and expect the government to release 40 serial killers per kid? Or is this something we only expect the Jews to do? What an insane, sad reality we're living in, that this is actually happening. This is not made up. If you will go and look, and I'm not going to mention the list here because it's just a long list. Many of these terrorists that are being released have actual blood on their hands. Some of them murdered an entire family in their sleep with husband and wife and babies. Some of them went and brought suicide bombers into discotheques, into restaurants, killing numerous human beings that did nothing for them. And they are being released so we can have Israeli Jewish babies brought back into Israel. Innocent people. What a crazy reality that this is actually happening, guys. It's not made up. Oh, I like this one. Exchange exchange each hostage for 100 pro-Hamas US students. Good for Israel, good for the USA, good for Hamas. Education for students. This can probably be one of the best education can give some of these students in these institutes, university. I don't call them university anymore. They're basically feeding ground for anti-Semites and racists and people that just can't think for themselves, but they might have been universities back in the days, Harvard, the UCLA, whatever the name of these, deprived organizations right now. But nowadays, I don't even call them universities. But if they will do that, that'll probably be the best real life education they can give some of their students. Never before in history has a side claimed that they have suffered a genocide and at the same time that they won the war they had started. I mean, unless you're Hamas or Gazans. Here are actually some of the interesting comments that you will probably start seeing now more and more from all these Western pro supporters of Hamas and all these anti-Semites. One of them is, remember that a ceasefire is a start. We want free Palestine. I hope people realize that the ceasefire is for the Palestinians in Gaza. Absolutely nothing changed for the rest of us in dismantling the Zionism, fighting for a free Palestine. No pause, no breaks, no rest until every inch of Palestine is free. It is just crazy that it's became accepted to say Nazi-like statements like that, calling for the genocide of the Jews, of the only Jewish states on the face of this earth, and still believing that you are a justice warrior, some kind of a social justice advocate. And you know what? That's probably how the Nazis behaved. Many of the Nazis actually genuinely believed that they were the good guys. And that's what we're seeing right now across the radical left around the West. They're saying stuff that are Nazi-like, genocidal, jihadist, calling for the extermination of the Jewish state. There's no other way to say it. And believing that they're the good guys and probably having people around them telling, oh, you're such a justice warrior for saying that. It's just mind-blowing. Y'all, I can't believe I survived to witness this day. I legit thought I wouldn't. Next on the list is the day that Israel ceased to exist. That is just crazy. She's basically saying, y'all, I can't believe I survived Hamas using me as human shield for so long while they kidnapped babies and Israel came and tried to rescue them and not kill me, but I managed to survive. Thank God. And the next thing on the list, let's go and genocide all the Jews. I mean, October 7 have brought a reality where anti-Semitism mixed with ignorance and human stupidity all came together in a triumph kind of parade in the street. I mean, how crazy that is that they feel comfortable saying that stupidity. Anti-Zionism, Hamas ideology, anti-Semitism, jihadist, Islam, revolutionary Marxism, call it whatever you want. It is evil, undoubtedly. That picture right here, when Emily is finally back where she belongs and she's doing this, in my eyes, that is a sign of Jewish triumph over evil. That is the sign that helped the Jews survive for so many years, so many empires, so many generations that came to destroy them, yet they managed to survive because the Jews have always chose to believe in life over death. And we're seeing it right now very clearly in these demonstrations. You look at the demonstrations in Tel Aviv and you see just people praying, holding, hoping to see these hostages, innocent hostages, back with their loved ones, singing songs of peace and hope. And then you go into Gaza or the pro-Palestinian demonstration around the world, and you will just see a bunch of radical death cults chanting for death, chanting for the annihilation of Israel. A second ago, they were crying, please subscribe to my channel. I am poor. Give me money. Send me. I am hungry. While his brother is kind of giggling in the back. A second later, they're going around, we won this war, genocide all the Jews, kill them. We are the people of Yahya Sinwar, Muhammad Death, any arch terrorist. It's basically equivalent to Osama bin Laden and Baghdadi and all these bad, crazy guys. Here are some images where they're hugging their moms. I mean, Just to imagine what probably went through the mind of their parents through this entire time. These mothers seeing their daughters, their loved ones, being held captive by these monsters for so long, not knowing if they're ever going to come back alive, not knowing if they're even still alive, and then having them reach home. Wow, what a beautiful, exciting moment. But with that said and done, I still want to remind us that we still have more than 90 hostages being held in Gaza. This ceasefire is basically Israel's hand being twisted to accept a deal that is terrible for Israel, but Israel is willing to do that because they wanna. It just shows you the extent that Israel is willing to sacrifice to bring back their people home. While the other side shows you the extent that they're willing to sacrifice their own people so they can stay in power and keep doing acts of terrorism and keep fooling the world as they're doing right now. A big part of the problem is genuinely, and I'm saying that as someone who's living in Europe right now, is how easily Europeans and Americans are being tricked to follow radical jihad and believe that they're the good guys. By doing that, they're actually fueling this machine of war. They're actually fueling organizations that benefit from sending them money, or own organizations that benefit from educating people for death. Look at these celebrations in the streets. See how many children are standing next to terrorists, coward terrorists that up until now were hiding behind the ground. Suddenly now they have their clean uniform that have no spot in them. Why? Because they didn't use these uniforms. Why is that? Because they were trying to hide themselves as civilians and using civilians as human shields. So see the joy, every picture here. You'll see so many children in the back, and that is indoctrination that you're having. And when you teach a generation of children that the best thing they can do in their life is kidnap Jews, murder Jews, and not only that, that when they do that, they get rewarded because they get to free some of their friends that were in prison for killing and kidnapping Jews, then it's just going to become a never ending cycle of death. And the biggest loser out of this, and I can tell you that for a fact, is Palestine, is the Palestinians. Because the best hope for Palestinians would be to get rid of radical jihad and to actually accept a hand for peace with the Jews. Undoubtedly the best solution that can happen ever for Palestine, but how far we are from that. It's like literally like back in science fiction. There's probably better chance that we'll meet Martians that will come to planet Earth and will choose to go to Taylor Swift concert the first thing they do when they come here. That's probably way more likely than having Gazans decide that they want to have peace, Palestinians that want to have peace, and the reason for that is because the indoctrination of children for hate, for death, for jihad, for Muslim Brotherhood, and the West sitting silent and not condemning it, not calling to stop it, and actually condemning Israel for defending itself and demanding that Israel have a ceasefire with their hands twisted behind their back just so they can get to see their babies back. That is crazy reality. But anyway, guys, I can talk about this all day. Just want to say, welcome home, girls. We're so happy that you're back, and we just hope to see more and more of these hostages coming back alive and safe. And once this is done, let us deal with the rest. I think that's a very good message for some of us. You might understand between the lines. Many of us are actually hoping to see that once this deal is done, when all the hostages are back, do you really think that Israel is going to forget what Hamas did? I don't think so. I really hope not. And we're going to see that soon. But anyway, I'm going to keep you updated. But until then, guys, anything is stupid in general. Just don't do anything that I would do. And in general, what kind of a good word of advice I can give you today? Honestly, just teach your kids to love their neighbors. I took my kid last week. I was invited to speak at a local synagogue here in the city by the rabbi. He told me a community of Jewish students that were here. They would love to hear you. We heard what you said in the last October 7th because I was invited to speak here in Germany, and we found it was very touching. We'd like to talk to you more and invite you as a Druze to come and join us for this beautiful Friday Shabbat dinner. So I went there, and it was a beautiful moment. But before I went there, I asked him, can I bring my kid with me? Can I have him come and witness a little bit more about the richness of Jewish culture? And he said, yes, please, absolutely. We have a lot of family and children. The more your kids spend time with people of color, different religions, the more he actually feel comfortable about the world that we're living in and feel it's just undoubtedly one of the best ways to help bring a better future. And this is what we're seeing right now lacking big time, a void in Palestine, in Gaza, where they're teaching their kids from the age of zero basically to love death, to love death over life, to want that the best thing they can do in their life is to kidnap or murder the Jews. And that's why we're seeing in every picture and image right now that we're seeing with Hamas in Gaza, we're seeing a terrorist standing and many children standing around and chanting and celebrating. Because you see, here's the thing. All kids are the same. When they're born, if he's a Palestinian kid, a Muslim kid, an Israeli kid, a Jewish kid, a Christian kid, they're all the same. They're creation, they're children of God. But what happened in the age of 0 to 5 and later on, when you start feeding them with the nonsense of hatred, with celebrating stupidity, with celebrating death, and etc., that's when you end up with Gaza, basically. Anyway, guys, stay safe, don't do anything stupid, and see you next time.